Called by God in 1987 to be him who has understanding, while U.S. Air Force Army Academy cadet, Tim Cohen is today an internationally known Christian author, speaker, and teacher. He has researched and written what many are now coming to view as Christendom's foremost prophetic and theological works. And one of them, the most important one of all for the sake of the show, is The Antichrist, the Cup of Tea. Also another volume, Great Tribulation is Near, the Messiah, History, and Tribulation Period. Tim Cohen on the show. He was just getting into the coat of arms, Prince Charles' coat of arms, and how his coat of arms even indicates that he certainly would be the major candidate for the Antichrist. So reiterate again the idea of the crest and his coat of arms.
So in Revelation 13, we're told about this unusual creature, this beast that doesn't exist in nature, which has feet like a bear, body like a leopard, and mouth like a lion. And because it says like, we're talking about similes. So not actually the feet of a bear, or the body of a leopard, or the mouth of a lion, but this is what you are reminded of when you see it. And then it tells us that the dragon gives this beast his power, throne, and great authority. And in the prior chapter, Revelation 12, that same dragon is identified as a fiery red dragon, and as the serpent who deceived Eve in the Garden of Eden, and as Satan explicitly. Then in Revelation 13 again, as you get toward the end of the chapter, verse 18, it says, "Here is wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Right.
So the first thing is that for someone to be the Antichrist, and by the way, it's this beast who rules over the world for 3.5 years in Revelation 13, so we are talking about the Antichrist. For someone to be that individual, they must have this imagery associated with them. And the reason that we can say that is that Revelation 13:18 states, it is the number of the beast, and after it says that, it tells us, for it is the number of man. So in other words, if we're going to look at any human being at any time in history as potentially the Antichrist, first and foremost, they must have that imagery in some fashion associated with them, this thing that doesn't exist in nature. Secondly, when that imagery is present, that person's name by which they're known must calculate to 666. Well, a lot of people have gone out and invented numeric systems to try to do that for anyone who they think looks like an Antichrist candidate. Mm-hmm. And Scripture does not give us license to do that. In fact, the English is translated from the original Greek text. And in the original Greek text of Revelation 13:18, both in the majority text and the Textus Receptus or received text, it uses 3 Greek letters to specify the number 666. So it's not even written with the form of words, unlike most numbers throughout the New Testament. And I only know of one other that's not written in the form of words. This one is specified instead with 3 Greek letters, one letter for the number 600, a second letter for the number 60, and a third letter for the number 6, which is where we get 666 from. That title is the ancient biblical numbering system, and it actually derived sequentially, not phonetically, from the original Hebrew numbering system that was used in the Old Testament before we had external numbering systems to the language. That tells us, because it was applied sequentially, that we can take that same original system, transfer it sequentially to any language on earth, calculate the value of a name or word natively in that language without translating it and without transliterating it necessarily. So the title Charles, Prince of Wales, on that particular system works out to 666, both in English, with the system being transferred sequentially, and then also, as it turns out, on the original Hebrew system from the Old Testament, the same title by which he's known in modern Israeli Hebrew, which is Nasik Charles of Wales. That same title, the way it's spelled, for example, in the Israeli press, works out to 666. Statistically, mathematically, that isn't even really possible. The odds against it are so great you can call it legitimately impossible, but it's a fact. So here we have a prince of Roman lineage, and a lot of Christians expect the Antichrist to be that, who is an heir apparent to a throne. A lot of Christians don't realize that the Antichrist has to be an heir apparent to a throne. Mm-hmm. There are multiple words for prince in Scripture, and the one that's used in Daniel 9:27 for the Antichrist, another prophecy that deals with this individual who will rule for 3.5 years, is a word that means an heir apparent to a throne. So not just any prince. So a lot of Christians know that he's at least a prince. So in this case, Prince Charles has all that imagery.
Right.
He's got the beast of the feet like a bear, body like a leopard, mouth like a lion on his coat of arms. He also has a unicorn with human eyes, which, unlike that other beast, is not completely unique to him in history, but it's unusual because the unicorn on his coat of arms with human eyes is what Daniel 7 is talking about for the same Antichrist when it describes him as a little horn with human eyes. Now, in the context of Daniel in his day, the Babylonians and so forth would have understood that was talking about a unicorn of some sort with human eyes. That's on the coat of arms. The red dragon is on Prince Charles' coat of arms. Mm-hmm. His sons, William and Harry, both have their own coats of arms. Neither one of them has the red dragon on their coat of arms. They both have the normal lion or lion leopard for England on their coat of arms. They do not have the lion leopard bear, which Prince Charles has on his, because the feet on his are different. They're unusual. They do not have a unicorn with human eyes on their coats of arms. Their unicorns are normal unicorns that have an eye more like a horse's, where you see just the dark portion. You don't see the sclera. Same thing with Queen Elizabeth II's coat of arms, normal lion on her coat of arms.
Right.
Not the case with Prince Charles. So,
but do we can make a connection, which I've made connections before, the idea of the Wales dragon. The Welsh dragon is the red dragon as well. And we look at, it's kind of like the Vatican. When you're there in London, the symbol of commerce there is a dragon. So when you have the symbol of commerce, the symbol of money, you have the symbol of Wales, all dragons, all pointing to Prince Charles, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And actually that dragon on Prince Charles' coat of arms is also unusual in the sense that it derives from the standards of the ancient Roman cohorts that occupied ancient Britannia. And before that, the same standards of the Roman cohorts that occupied ancient Judea. So when the Apostle John penned the book of Revelation, for example, chapters 12 and 13, he'd seen that red dragon.
Well, he saw the new Judea. He saw the new Roman Empire being held by a Roman. I mean, the Britannians are Romans. They're the new Roman Empire, and they were meant to be the new Roman Empire, that there would be a time in the future. I mean, heck, if you hear that song Jerusalem that they sing, used to be the hymn of England, it talks about how Jesus walked on their shores and how that he will return again, but he will return again as the once and future king, which, of course, brings us all into the Arthurian Grail legends as well.
Well, you know, Prince Charles has Arthur in his full name. It's Charles Philip Arthur George. Mm-hmm. And where he was invested, Caernarvon Castle, invested as Prince of Wales in July of 1969. It's a large open-air castle, fairly famous, and it was associated from the beginning with Arthurian legend and with Merlin. But what is also unique about it that I don't think actually anyone else in the world probably knows. There might be a few people in Wales who've figured this out, but the castle itself is laid out in terms of its walls, where they're placed, versus its various, gosh, I can't even think of the word for it. I want to say chambers, but anyway, towers, I'm trying to say. The placement of all of that and the actual geometry of all of that is laid out to mimic the original city of David in ancient Israel. So the old city of David had the same layout for its gates and for its walls.
Wow.
So Prince Charles, that was the most widely viewed event in the history of the world when he was invested in July of 1969 as Prince of Wales. That's when his coat of arms, which is on the front cover of the Antichrist and the Cup of Tea, was first unveiled to the world, shown to the world publicly. Right. And he was facing the red dragon, literally, as the coronet was placed on his head. And behind him, in the opposite direction, opposite castle wall, his mother, who put the coronet on his head, was also facing the red dragon.
Coming up, there's a lot to cover here, and we're going to cover it in an hour, hopefully. But I also want to talk about Prince Charles' role in the World Economic Forum, because a lot of people are looking at the World Economic Forum as possibly the new reset of the kingdom of the Antichrist, and Prince Charles has his hands in that. We'll talk with Tim Cohen about this